Hello ladies, welcome back to me, Mr. Spoiler1923. Watch it and watch it again. If you haven't watched it yet, come watch it. Today let's explore the idea of another version of ourselves appearing, as in the movie Us. Shadows exist, and another version of us could be hidden, waiting to rise and fight for their lives. Let's dive into the spoilers. The story starts in 1986 in Santa Cruz, where the Addy family takes their daughter to an amusement park. Her dad wins a prize at a game, and she picks a shirt with the number 11. Then they enjoy more rides, but when her mom suggests a bathroom break, she refuses, so her mom tells her dad to watch her. They will have a real life. And what happens in the story? Let's dive into the spoilers. First, I need to ask for a little support from each of you. Just one like to keep me going. And for those who subscribed, I bow deeply in gratitude. If you want to watch this movie in full by yourself, feel free to skip this part. But for those who want to hear the spoilers, stick around as usual. The story begins in 1986 in Santa Cruz. The Addy family takes their daughter to an amusement park. Her dad wins a prize at a game, letting her choose. She picks a number 11 shirt and her dad puts it on her. They enjoy more rides. Her mom suggests the bathroom, but she refuses, so her mom tells her dad to watch her. Don't let her wander off. Keep her close, she insists. But the dad is busy playing games and doesn't pay attention. She sees something, walks away, and reaches the beach. There, she spots a Vision Quest tunnel and walks in as rain starts. He told her not to go anywhere, and reminded her to stay close to her dad, but he was too busy playing games and didn't pay much attention to her. She saw something, and decided to walk away, wandering off until she reached the beach. She enters the Vision Quest tunnel, but it starts raining. She heads for the exit, a mirror. As she walks deeper, she hears an echo. Turning, she sees someone identical to her. So, she walked straight to the exit sign and found it was a mirror. When she looked around, she realized she was surrounded by mirrors reflecting her from all angles. She kept walking, whistling as she went, deeper and deeper, and then she heard a whistling sound echoing back at her. It felt like something was behind her, and when she slowly turned around, she found someone who looked just like her, as if they were the same person. The scene cuts to the present, where the Addy family has moved to the suburbs. Everyone is unpacking, and Addy sees a haunting image of her younger self. She overhears her parents discussing something troubling. She recalls the day she saw something resembling her. Jason calls for help, but it's just play. They hear a noise outside. It's their dad with an old boat on the lake. They laugh, joking about fitting in the boat. The scene shifts to the family heading to meet friends at Santa Cruz Beach. They pass a house where someone died, and Zola and Addy tell the kids not to look. Addy senses something strange. She flashes back to the day she encountered something that looked like her. Suddenly she hears Jason calling for help, so she rushes to check on him, only to find that the siblings are just playing around. The three of them hear a noise outside, which turns out to be their dad, who bought an old boat and is trying to sail it in the lake in front of their house. The three of them stood there laughing at their dad's antics, joking about whether they could all really fit in that boat. The scene cuts to the Addy family heading to a meeting with their friends at Santa Cruz Beach. On the way, Jason drives past a house where someone has died, and both Addy and Jason tell the kids not to look. Addy feels something strange about the situation, and when she arrived at the beach, she started to think back to the first time she came here, as a child. At the beach, Kiap and Andy talked with George and his wife Kitty. They listened to music near her brother. Two twin girls told her he was acting weird. Sola defended him, saying he has ADHD. Jason got up, saying he's going to the bathroom. In the bathroom, Jason saw a man with blood dripping from his hands. Addy noticed Sola couldn't see Jason and panicked. Jason returned, startling her. Everyone went home. Addy put the kids to bed and found Jason's drawing of the man. She asked who it was, and Jason said, "I don't know either." In the bathroom, Jason sees a man with his arms extended and there's blood dripping from his hands. Addy notices Zola sitting there but can't see Jason, so she starts to panic and goes looking for him. Just then, Jason walks back out and she gets startled, asking where he was. Then everyone splits up back at home. Addy puts the kids to bed, calming Jason, and she finds a drawing Jason made of the man he saw at the beach. Addy asks Jason who that is, and Jason replies, "I don't know." In her bedroom, Zola tries to talk to her about going fishing, but she says she doesn't want to be there. She feels trapped there. She tells Zola about an experience she had in the past. When she was a kid, she met a lookalike girl, but that girl mocked. At home, Eddie puts her son to bed. She finds a picture Jason drew of him, seeing a man acting odd on the beach. Andy asks Jason who this man is. Jason says he doesn't know. In her bedroom, Zola tries to talk about fishing, but she doesn't want to be there. She tells Gabe about meeting a girl in her past who looked like her. Suddenly, Jason says there's someone outside. Addie tells Zola to get ready while Gabe checks outside. He runs back, telling them to call the police and lock the doors. Zola rushes upstairs to close her window. Addie tells Gabe to take care of Jason. Gabe feels something is trying to break in. Outside, they try to break in. Addie hugs her kids tightly while Gabe watches for intruders. Suddenly, Jason runs out and says there's someone outside our house. Everyone panics and senses something is off. Addie tells Zola to put on her shoes and get ready, while Gabe goes out to check things out. He quickly runs back in, telling them to call the police and lock the doors. Zola said her window wasn't closed, so she quickly ran upstairs. Addie tried to hold her back, but it was too late, so she told Gabe to take care of Jason while she rushed after Zola. Gabe felt like those things were trying to break into the house, and Jason slowly backed away. Outside, they were trying to force their way in. Addie came downstairs and hugged both of her kids tightly, while Gabe kept watch for whatever was trying to get in. But they found the house key and were about to get inside. Gabe tried to hold the door shut, but got hit in the leg with a baseball bat, causing him pain. However, they managed to catch a glimpse of the intruders' faces. Everyone was really shocked, and they backed into the living room. Jason said, "They are us." The four of us entered the house, and Addie's shadow came in and sat across from her. She faced her own shadow, which began to speak about their first encounter, the pain, the stress, the resentment that had built up over the years, and the hatred towards Addie that led to this moment of revenge today. The shadow commands her to put on handcuffs and tie herself to the table. Patty tells the shadow that they can't harm her family, and she agrees to tie herself to the table. Meanwhile, Gabe keeps mumbling and his own shadow hits him and drags him away. Patty turns to Zola and tells her to run, to get away as fast as she can. Zola looks at her mom and then quickly runs out. The shadow follows her out as well. Uncle Andy signals to his youngest son, Jason, who is scared and says he doesn't want to. Addie reassures her son, telling him not to be afraid, and encourages him to perform a magic trick for the shadow, and her shadow followed her out as well. Uncle Andy signaled to his youngest son, Jason, who was scared, and said he didn't want to. Addie reassured her son, telling him not to be afraid, and encouraged him to perform a magic trick for the shadow. Jason nodded, and then pushed his shadow away. Grace tries to plead with her shadow outside the house, and they end up fighting until Case passes out. Zola runs away without looking back, and hides behind a parked car. The shadow catches up and stands on the car. She's really scared, when suddenly the car owner comes out and tells the shadow to get off their car. Zola seizes the opportunity to run away. "Get off the car," and the car owner immediately responded. Zola hears a scream. He and the shadow enter a dark room, and the shadow lights a match. He tricks the shadow, and the shadow mimics him. But when the shadow shows its face, Zola sees it is burned. Jason is terrified, so he covers his face with a mask. Jason tricks the shadow and escapes, leaving it trapped. Andy struggles with her shadow, and she hears her son's shadow. She tells her shadow to check her son. Jason tricks the shadow long enough to escape from the room, and runs away, leaving the shadow trapped inside. Meanwhile, Andy is struggling with her own shadow, and suddenly she hears her son's shadow scream. She tells her shadow to hurry and check on her son, and Andy's shadow quickly walks away. So she quickly freed herself from being tied to the table. Once she breaks free, she quickly runs to find Jason. Gabe is now on the boat, fighting his own shadow in the water until he finally manages to defeat it. Eddie finds Jason, and they start running away from the house. Jason's shadow followed her as she ran out of the house and encountered Zola, but the three of them heard the sound of a boat calling for them, so they quickly ran down to the boat. Jason's shadow chased after them but couldn't catch up, and Andy's shadow just smiled sadly as they escaped. Addie's family fled to George's house for help, but when they arrived, they found out they were too late. George's family had already been killed by their own shadows. The four of them started fighting against George's family's shadows. Gabe distracts George's shadow in another direction, so the kids can escape. Andy gets caught by the shadow of the twin girl and pulled into the house. Zola and Jason sneak inside to help their mom. Zola grabs a golf club as a weapon, while Jason picks up a paperweight and puts on his mask. They both head upstairs and find the bodies of the twin girls lying dead. Zola encounters the shadows of the twins and manages to kill both of them before rushing to help her mom. Get rid of George's shadow. Deal with the shadow over there on the boat. Zola enters the room where Addie is tied up and fights against Kitty's shadow, George's wife, nearly overpowered. Jason arrives just in time to help, subduing the shadow, keeping them safe. Gabe and Eddie argue while Zola tries calling the police, but there's no answer. Gabe wants to stay and use the house as a shelter, but Andy insists they escape because it's unsafe. The news reports people in red with scissors are killing others, emerging from underground. Patty insists they must run far away because the shadows know their thoughts and will come to kill them unless they act first. The news on TV is reporting about people in red outfits, armed with scissors, going around killing people. The victims on TV say that they emerged from underground pipes, wearing red, and have turned into weapons. The people in red are up to something. Patty insists that they need to run, to get as far away as possible, because the shadows know what we're thinking. And wherever we are, they will come to kill us, or else we have to kill them first. So we need to keep running until we reach the Mexican border. The four of them got into the car, but realized they forgot the car keys. Addie ran back inside to get the keys, and found that the bodies of the twin shadows that were supposed to be lying there were gone. She quickly ran to grab the keys, and ended up fighting with the shadow of the twin girl. She successfully killed the shadow, and then rushed back to the car. Zola insists on driving herself, and there's an argument between Gabe and Eddie, who insist she shouldn't drive. Suddenly, while they're arguing, Zola's shadow appears and stands right in front of the car. They quickly get in, and Zola drives off at full speed, while Zola's shadow tries to attack them inside the car. Zola stepped on the gas to make the shadow fall off, and Addie got out of the car to check if the shadow was dead. Once she was sure it was dead, she got back in the car. The four of them drove on and on until they reached Santa Cruz. They saw dead bodies scattered everywhere, until they came across a burning car blocking the road, and there stood Jason's shadow. Andy got out of the car and ordered everyone to lock the doors. She walked up and stopped right in front of Jason's shadow, which looked at Jason and smiled. Jason realized this was a trap, so he ordered everyone to get out of the car quickly. Jason stares at his shadow and starts to back away slowly. The shadow follows him until it eventually sinks into the flames. The lineage that traces back to the family was captured by Andy's shadow, which was hiding. Gabe and Andy were really shocked, and Eddie quickly ran after them until they reached the basement, where she discovered the place where the shadow people used to live. She tries to find Jason and encounters her own shadow. The shadow begins to tell her about the past, how they were created, and that she is like a hollow shell without a soul. But she has been different since the day she met Andy. She has been consumed by thoughts of revenge, eventually gathering and forming an army of shadow people to start her quest for vengeance. The fight between her and the shadow began. She successfully got rid of the shadow and then looked for Jason. The two of them came out of the basement to join Gabe and Zola. The four of them got into the ambulance and drove away. Jason sat in the front seat next to Andy, who was driving, while Zola and Gabe were in the back in the medical area. But during that time, Andy started having some images pop into her head, memories from her childhood. She saw a flashback of the day she got separated from her parents at the amusement park. Then she entered the glass room where she first encountered her own reflection. But this memory didn't stop there. She saw something else. Herself and another version of her were switched in a way that shouldn't be. The real body became the shadow, while the shadow turned into the real body. She smiled, and when she turned to look at her son Jason, he was looking back at her with a strange expression in his eyes as well. And that's how the movie ended, with a strange look in his eyes as well. And the movie has come to an end. How's it going, everyone? What do you think about the creepy story in Us? The trailer is really chilling, and the plot is quite intriguing. Who would have thought that there's another version of us out there in this world? So, what would happen if suddenly another version of us came to kill us? Just thinking about it is terrifying, right? But before we wrap up, here's a top comment from the recent Valentine's Day festival. Hey, be my friend. Mom, the future is uncertain, but my son-in-law is definitely going to be someone like you, even if he's not rich or handsome like a star. His heart is more beautiful than any famous K-pop group. You might think I'm crazy, but if you try hanging out with me for a bit, you'll see that I can take you to the next level. We can only be friends, like just talking to each other. You might think I'm crazy, but if you try hanging out with me for a bit, you'll see that I can take you to the next level. We can only be friends, like just someone to talk to. A teddy bear is meant for hugging, and I want to hug and take her off. That's awesome. How did you even think of that? It's so thrilling. And I would like to thank you for the other comments as well. And if there are any mistakes, I apologize here. Thank you for following. Don't forget to press the bell so that when I upload a new clip, you won't miss it. But if you guys want me to cover any specific topics or have any suggestions, feel free to comment and chat below this video. For today, that's it for the spoiler of Us. I'll say goodbye for now. See you